Now, listen up.
3, 2, 1.
It's showtime. That's great. This is ridiculous.
99.3 The Truth.
You can't handle the truth. Right now.
Ooh. That's the stupidest thing I ever heard.
Let's do it. Hit it.
It's time for Mac's World. And here we go.
Everybody, let's get it started. Let's get it started.
Call Mac 244-0077 or text 809-0993.
It's showtime, everybody! Showtime!
Exclusively on 99.3 The Truth.
It's 3:07 on the 23rd day of August in the Lord's year 2016. I'm J. Michael McCoy, and it's the first hour of Mac's World Live on this Tuesday. And, of course, my co-host on Tuesday, as always, Tom Coates. And, Tom, you brought a very special guest today.
Well, Mac, an old friend of the show, a friend of mine, Steve Scheffler, has come in. For the audience that may not know him, he is the president of the Iowa Faith and Freedom Alliance, which has been around a long time. Earlier was the old Christian Coalition when you were involved with that. Steve also was very active in he's got an upcoming event with Steve Forbes that we want to talk about, but you were involved with Steve Forbes' campaign years ago when he ran for president. Yeah, and you're also the committee man for, say this for me, I don't want to get it.
Republican National Committee man for the state of Iowa.
There we go. That's a mouthful. Yeah. So you've got a lot of time, a lot of credentials behind you, Steve. Welcome to the show.
It's good to be here, Tom.
Well, again, it's always a pleasure. And before the show kicked off, Mac, we were talking a little bit about his experience at the Republican convention this year. And Steve was telling us how we came very close to jeopardizing our first-in-the-nation status.
Wow.
Because of some knuckleheads, to put it charitably.
We the delegate crowd?
Yeah, expect it. We expect that from... In fact, very little other than that at the Democrat National Convention, but we kind of expect a little higher level of discernment over the Republican side, but we didn't have it from some of them. Steve, you want to give us some of your take on that?
Well, our concern was it was going to be a repeat of what happened 4 years ago when some of the Liberty faction voted overwhelmingly for their candidate as opposed to reflecting the will of the voters here in Iowa. So this time it was an effort to have a roll call on the rules, which would, quite frankly, had that happened, it wouldn't have changed anything that the Rules Committee had decided like 3 days earlier, and that would have drawn the convention out on that Monday by 6, 7, 8 hours. And Iowa was initially the only carve-out state. Of course, those are the states that have special preference in going first in the month of February. And had Iowa remained on that list and made that vote, that long, drawn-out vote possible, Iowa would have been in serious jeopardy of losing their caucus status. But fortunately, some of us got 3 of the individuals to get their names pulled off of there, so Iowa was not on the list after all. So fortunately, we dodged a bullet that day.
You did, and maybe it's unfair to call them knuckleheads, Mac. Maybe they're just poor, misguided souls. Tell us what these poor, misguided souls, now that Trump is our nominee, tell us what some of these same individuals are pushing for now.
Well, I haven't talked to all of them individually, but there is a very distinct, small, I'll call it shrill minority of people who are not happy with the outcome of the presidential race. And I call them the no Trump people. And, Trump wasn't my first choice. But in politics, in a general election, you have one of two choices. In this case, it's either Hillary Clinton or it's Donald Trump. And Hillary Clinton, in my years of observing politics for 45 years, she's the most evil, the most ethically flawed person that ever has been nominated by a major political party. She's a pathological liar. You can make a strong case that she should be in jail. And not to talk about all the shortcomings of her husband.
Well, don't sugarcoat it for the audience, Steve. Tell us what you really think.
I just think she is. Let me put it in perspective. I remember Richard Nixon as a young adult, And if he were alive today, we would have to crown him for sainthood and apologize to him for the way we treated him, because the woman, Hillary Clinton, she's absolutely terrible. And the bottom line is Trump is a far better alternative. And there's no other reason why people should vote for Donald Trump. It's the Supreme Court. Even 4 years, she can cause a train wreck with some of those people that are sitting in those justice chairs now. One's 82, one's 81, one is 79, not even counting the Scalia vacancy. And the bottom line, we cannot allow her to turn this court against our liberties forever. And so that's number one. Number two is ISIS and national security. The first 61 speakers of the Democrat National Convention never mentioned ISIS, not one single time. So I don't trust the Democrats, and I don't trust Hillary Clinton after she left 4 men to die in Benghazi of protecting our national security. So those are two big reasons why people ought to vote for Donald Trump.
Well, you're just making the case that I made to David Johnson sitting in that seat about a month ago on he's dropping his Republican credentials because of Trump's comments about a Mexican judge. But Frank's got a comment or a question here, Frank.
Steve. What do you think about the additions of Kellyanne Conway and Steve Bannon and releasing the what's the guy's name they released here?
Manafort,
yeah.
Paul Manafort. What do you think of those moves?
Well, number one, I'm not a political strategist. That's not my cup of tea, I guess. But I mean, from what I can see, I think they probably were good changes. Manafort, had the PR stuff that was probably going to be hung around Trump's neck forever, which would have been the whole Russian-Ukrainian thing. So I think, it was a good move, and everything I know about Ms. Conway is she's very gifted. So, and if you've noticed, I think the last week or so, or week and a half, it seems like the Trump campaign has got back on message, and his speeches have had a lot of substance that have gotten rave reviews from people like Rudy Giuliani and Speaker Gingrich. So I think he's on target. If he can stay on target, which I think he can, I think he will, then I think we've got a real shot at winning this thing on November 8th.
Yeah, Steve, along that line, the media keeps talking about polls. This week they're not talking as much about polls. I've seen the LA Times poll that has been trending towards Trump. Now actually has Trump with a 1 to 2 point lead. This is not a small poll. It's a rolling poll of 3,000 American households weighted towards likely voters, and they poll 400 of those people every day. Now, it did show Hillary a week or so ago with a small lead, and it's been trending now where actually Trump has a small lead, buttressed by a trend in Rasmussen. Some other polls which show Trump coming back from the media had him dead and gone a week or so ago. Tell us what you think of some of the polling that is going on. Do you trust the polling? What do you think of it?
Well, as you know, one poll today can be irrelevant tomorrow. And as you know, the American people are a lot more fickle, I think, than they used to be. And so late events that happen in a political cycle can make a big difference. But again, I think if Donald Trump stays on message and can keep his aim fired, trained on her, and talk about all of her ethical lapses and how she is absolutely rotten on a wide range of issues, I think he can win. And if you look at the Democratic platform this time, even compared to 92 when Bill Clinton was first nominated, it's clear in left field. And if you see the film called Hillary's America,
I saw it.
Produced by Denise D'Souza, you will see this woman is no moderate Democrat. She's as far left as Bernie Sanders ever thought of being. She's just not as truthful about her position on issues as Bernie was, but she is a far leftist, through and through a socialist, I would call her, just like Bernie
Sanders. Invite the people in the audience to see that movie, Steve, because that's an excellent movie. Dinesh D'Souza.
Our guest today is Steve Scheffler. He is the Republican National Committee man for the state of Iowa and also the president of the Iowa Faith and Freedom Coalition. And we want you to know that you're invited to the 16th annual Fall Family Banquet featuring former presidential candidate, economist, and author Steve Forbes. Also, there are some other people that will be coming. Michelle Bachmann will be there, and some others yet to be named. It is Saturday, September 24th. Dinner at 5, program at 6, and it's at the Paul Knapp Learning Center at the Iowa State Fairgrounds. Now, there are sponsorship opportunities. If you'd like to buy individual tickets or if you'd like to buy a table, you can do so. Just check them out at events@ffciowa.com. or you can give them a call at 515-225-1515. Frank?
Hey, I heard it from a pretty reliable source. These Free the Delegates crowd is the ones who's starting some of these rumors that Trump's going to drop out and trying to gin up some of these bad polls and some of the negativity about, oh, he's had the worst week ever. You know, in a normal campaign, you know your enemy. It's the liberals, it's the Democrats, it's the progressives, it's the socialists. Now, along with that, you've got some backstabbing Republicans, so-called. Have you heard the same thing, or do you feel the same thing? Well,
exactly. In fact, I got a call just about a week and a half ago from these same people wanting the Republican National Committee to have a special meeting to get rid of Donald Trump and rename a person to fill his place. Number one, it would be very divisive. Secondly, who would want the nomination at this late date when it's totally divided? And talking about these backstabbing people, you're exactly right. These people actually ran a radio ad against me on WHO radio for the better part of 3 or 4 weeks on WHO radio.
I heard
8, 10, 12 times a day. And what was ironic about it was the person's voice who was on the radio ad was none other than a guy from New Jersey with a very distinctive Eastern accent. So when you listen to the ad, you know that he's not from Iowa. Secondly, why they targeted me, I have no idea, because I had made my position known from day one that I supported binding to reflect the will of the voters in that particular state. And so as I told the reporter from the Wall Street Journal, if you want to come out and attack me, be my guest. But here's the exciting news. Not one single county Republican Party chairman or co-chairman of the state of Iowa, which is 99 counties, so it's 198 people, not one of those people called and complained to me that I supported binding of the delegates. So they wasted their time and their money. And I have a feeling that a certain individual who used to be a radio talk show host in the Des Moines area was part of that because he was part of these
Mr. Days,
conference
we'll
calls.
talk about that some more.
Okay, remember, the Gaithers are coming on the 16th of September. Here's a little of their music, and we're coming back live in Mac's World.
Happiness is free, it's never bought a soul. Let me tell you how I feel, let me tell you.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
Hey everybody, I brought Northern Lights Pizza! And it's got Graziano sausage!
Rockton Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens, rock on! This is Pat McManus for Rockton Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live. From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Jesus gave me water. Jesus gave me water.
21 minutes after 3 o'clock, 3:21. Those, of course, are the Gaithers. They'll be live at the Civic Center of Greater Des Moines. You can turn that down now, Jeb. Thank you. And that'll be Friday, the 16th of September. And tickets are on sale now. I encourage you to get them as quickly as you can so you got a nice... you're not going to get front row. Those are gone. But at least you get a nice upfront section. All right. I want to remind you that if you are looking to buy or sell a house, I would ask that you would consider interviewing my realtor. His name is Seth Walker, and he's at 577-3728. I'm in the middle of a deal with Seth right now. We're getting ready to close on a deal and have 3 others working. And I just got to tell you, he's that good. I wouldn't give one person all of my business if I didn't have all of my faith in him. And he's a good guy. So give him a call. He's got a great team over there at RE/MAX Real Estate Concepts at 577-3728. My co-host today is, of course, the inevitable Tom Coates. And his special guest is Steve Scheffler, who is the Republican National Committeeman for the state of Iowa and also the president of the Iowa Faith and Freedom Coalition. They are having their big fall family banquet, and the special guest is none other than Steve Forbes, economist, author, and former presidential candidate. It's all going to happen Saturday, the 24th of September, out at the Paul R. Knapp Learning Center on the fairgrounds. Tickets are now available. To find out more information, just go to events at ffciowa.com. Events at ffciowa.com. Okay, gentlemen.
Well, let's kind of finish up some of this conversation that we were having in the first segment, Steve. You talked about some of the individuals that are, in essence, never Trumpers. Now, I think you've got different people for different reasons. Some of them are bureaucratic types that don't like their situations challenged. Others are self-righteous, ethical purists, like the one that's heard later in the day on this station, that has been less than kind to you.
You can say his name. I don't care.
Mr. Dace. But for whatever reason, let's explore where they're going. Their strategy, of course, is not to vote for Hillary, but in essence, a lot of us would argue that's what this kind of opposition to the Republican nominee gets you. And what are they saying to you, Steve? What are you hearing? What are they advocating at this point?
Well, I'm convinced after reading some of their social media sites that they would rather burn the house down than to save the country to prove a point, whatever that might be. And that is according to a pure political agenda that's according to their standards, I guess, and what that is, I don't know. The bottom line is any of those 17 candidates to run for president is far superior to Hillary Clinton, and why people think that somehow that they can burn the house down and maybe survive 4 years or 8 years of Hillary Clinton is beyond me, because I'm not sure we can survive that 4 or 8 years and try to come back and reclaim the country. And they just need to get with the program, and in my view, they're just an absolute disgrace when they use the tactics they do.
Well, let's talk about their strategy. They're not advocating staying home. What are they advocating on election day?
Well, one of the people that I saw that was a big no-Trumper. In fact, this individual was thinking about running against me for national committeeman. Was talking about some of the people that supported one of our presidential candidates. to band together with the people that were Bernie Sanders supporter, and the two of them join hands and support Gary Johnson, which is just absolutely beyond
on the libertarian ticket,
beyond belief for a guy that supports open borders. Is terrible on the life issue, is terrible on the marriage issue. His running mate, Bill Weld, was a far-left liberal Republican governor of Massachusetts in the early 90s, and who recently said that Supreme Court nominees should be people like Stephen Breyer. So where these so-called self-righteous, all-or-nothing, type Republicans think that they're going to do this and try to save the country, I have no comprehension of their mindset, except that they want things according to their standard, and when they can't get can't have their way, they're going to take their marbles and go home.
Well, now the British always were famous for having their tea times. Does Gary Johnson still have his grass time every day? Does he take a specific time out during the day to light up the joint? He was doing that. Is he still doing that on the campaign trail?
All I know is I saw where somewhere he said as long as he was president, he wouldn't do that.
Kind of like Hillary.
So,
once I become president, foreign countries and companies are no longer welcome to donate to my Clinton Foundation. So hurry up. It's like the ad on the blue light special. Hurry up, limited time only. Hurry up and get your money into the Clinton Foundation before I take the oath of office, right?
And it is a vote for Hillary Clinton. Even the people that stay home and don't vote for either one, in my view, if they're a registered Republican, that is a vote for Hillary Clinton because it is one less vote that you need to win that state or to have more votes than the other guy does, so that you'll carry that state, in our case, 6 electoral votes. So in my view, even though you technically didn't not pull the lever for Hillary, by not voting for either one of your registered Republican, you are in essence voting for Hillary Clinton.
Thank you.
I heard someone on a radio show named MJ Kronfeld basically assert the idea that she's voting for Hillary because they want to give us guys who wandered off the plantation the country we deserve. So they're going to give us Hillary with purpose, and they're going to start running for the Cruz 2020 campaign, and they are going to take the Christian conservatives are going to take the party by force, was her words.
That's just bizarre. Here's the deal. If you look at let me make this case. Evangelical Christians and as Ralph Reed would call them, faithful Catholics, the pro-life, pro-family constituency, by and large would agree on probably 95 to 98% of the fundamental issues. But when it comes to supporting individual candidates, those people are scattered. So as an example, here in Iowa, in the caucuses, 31% of that segment voted for Cruz, 21% voted for Rubio, 21% voted for Donald Trump. And if you look at some southern states that happened after that, in many cases, Donald Trump got more than Cruz did or anybody else. So the bottom line is if they think they're going to get all these Christians, or whatever they call them, into one category, and they're all going to go marching down the hill for one candidate, that's not going to happen, because if you got 2 or 3 candidates that are quite similar on issues, they're not going to march going towards that one candidate. And if some of these people that are supporting Ted Cruz in this example use this mentality that we're going to burn the house down except for anybody else, that's not good, and that doesn't help their candidate in the long run. Because politics is about consensus building. You try to get people that agree on a wide range of issues to come together for a common good. But basically by castigating anybody that doesn't support their candidate, that's not smart politics. It's not going to make your candidate win in the end.
Steve, let me ask you on that front, just putting the Christians together to create the bloc. And, of course, as we become a smaller and smaller percentage of this country, evangelical Christians, that's not going to happen. What do you think about Trump's appeal just in the last week to the black voter? It was unusual. It was distinct. It was an appeal that I hadn't heard a Republican make maybe ever in the way he did it. What was your impression of how he attacked that issue?
I mean, I think it was a good one. Naturally, I don't think we're going to have to do more education among the black community to get more and more of them to vote Republican. But the bottom line is, even if you can pull off a segment of that constituency to vote Republican, it's going to get you over the top. The bottom line is, I think, as Mitt Romney saw in this last election, you can't just win with white men. You got to have a certain percentage of Hispanics. You got to have a certain percentage of all those other minority groups So even though you may not get a majority, it still is good to have, able to draw votes out of those different constituencies. So I think it's a good move on his part.
Well, for the listener that didn't hear, and of course the media didn't play up, other than to scream that there were not enough blacks in the audience for him to make this appeal. He, in essence, was chronicling their situation. You've been voting for the Democrats for over 50 years as a 80 to 90% block, and your situation is such that you've got 58% of your youth unemployed. You've got your schools in tatters. You're living in poverty. Your situation, how is it going to get any worse? You voted for the Democrat for 50 years. Give us a shot. And that, I'm kind of summarizing it, but that is a unique appeal. Where if 93% of the blacks voted for Obama as they did, and of course we don't expect that level of enthusiasm for Hillary Clinton, but if we could just peel off some of those people that from a self-interest standpoint see their situation as dire as it can, they become multi-generational welfare addicts to try to get their young people to a position that they could actually have an opportunity in this country of great opportunity. Maybe we can start to, because, back once upon a time under Abe Lincoln, the vast majority of the blacks in this country were Republicans. It swung it hard in the 60s. For the Democrat, which was ironic because it was the Southern Democrats in the South that were the KKK. Those are trying to keep the black man down.
Yeah,
and
a perfect example is former Senator Robert Byrd of West Virginia was actually a member of the Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah.
Did you hear the spin the night of the speech on CNN? Basically, they were the folk on there were saying that we don't need Trump beating up the black community, and he's just trying to pit the Mexicans and the blacks against one another, and we don't need him to come in and tell us how bad our community is and how bad our crime is and all. And this was the spin on CNN. But I wonder what you think of this idea that I have, like not New Orleans, but Baton Rouge, that Donald Trump show himself to be the leader, and wherever there's a problem in the United States, go and address it, and then the Democrats, Obama and Hillary, will get off their rear and go follow him, and then he shows he's the consummate leader by setting the agenda.
Well, and the problem is, as you know, the press this year is the worst it's ever been. They're not even trying to hide it anymore. They are so blatant. CNN, in my view, is the Obama Hillary news network.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely horrendous. And I think that blacks and Hispanics are smart enough to see through this. I would certainly hope so. And the bottom line is, when you look at as Tom mentioned, their economic situation has not improved under Democratic control. I mean, it was the Democrats who brought us the Great Society under Lyndon Johnson, and their situation has only gotten worse by and large,
Well, you remember when we had Hurricane Katrina? And Obama was not president; he was U.S. senator, and he went around on the stump just lambasting Bush because he didn't get in quick enough to Katrina. And now we've got the specter of a once in a 100-year flood, 22 inches in 3 days down in Baton Rouge, and he stays up there in playing golf.
Martha's Vineyard.
The man has played 300 rounds plus of golf since he's been president. The press never says one word. They played it up big time when he was beating up on Bush for just flying over and taking a look at Katrina. He can't, until today, he couldn't find time off the golf course to get to, if he weren't a little bit embarrassed over it, he wouldn't even done it then. The inconsistencies of a press is certainly worthy of discussion. Yes,
and we'll pick that conversation right after this when we get back live here in Mac's World on 99.3 The Truth. Here's a little Gaithers for you.
Jesus gave me water. Jesus gave me water. And it was not from the well. There was a woman from Samaria.
Northern Lights Pizza's amazing garlic butter makes amazing breadsticks. Now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza. I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Homs.
And I'm the Service Manager. Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed, fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
Ambassadors of Legend Service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're gonna make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Oh, what a wonderful day. Day I will never forget. After I wandered in darkness away, Jesus, my Savior.
Those are the Gaithers. They'll be here live on stage for you to witness on September 16th. That is a Friday night down at the Civic Center here in Greater Des Moines. Tickets are now on sale through the Civic Center and other ticket outlets. Tom Coates is in today, and his special guest is Steve Scheffler, Republican National Committee man for the state of Iowa. Steve is also the president of the Iowa Faith and Freedom Coalition, which is hosting their 16th annual Fall Family Banquet. Featured speakers will be Steve Forbes, economist, author, and former presidential candidate, as well as Michelle Bachmann, and maybe more to come. It all happens Saturday, September 24th. Dinner at 5 o'clock, program at 6 at the Paul Knapp Learning Center out at the Iowa State Fairgrounds. Ticket information, here's what you do. You can call 225-1515 or email to events@ffciowa.com. Events@ffciowa.com. All right, go ahead, Tom.
Well, to follow up on what we were talking about just before the break, we're all, I think, of the same mind that the media has, at least in my lifetime, always been prejudiced towards the left. But up until recently, they never actually went so far as they're going now. And the New York Times, I don't know if you saw it, Steve, about a week or so ago, didn't even deny it. They rationalized it. In their own editorial, they said, in essence, we, the media, have made a decision that Donald Trump is absolutely unacceptable to to this country, and therefore we have an obligation to step out and do everything we can to defeat him. I mean, some people say, well, why isn't Hillary's, the pay for play through the Clinton Foundation, why isn't this more of an issue? Because the media doesn't talk about it. I am like you, Steve. I have never seen a time where the media has been on such a crusade. We've seen it going back to Reagan and Nixon and everything else, but never to this level. Now, you raised some of these issues, right?
You've seen the Baton Rouge story was basically being ignored. I mean, they were so busy beating up on Trump on what he said that earlier that day, they had no ability to even cover a national disaster. But there's been a lot of truckloads of emergency materials sent down to Baton Rouge, and it's starting to affect Obama. He's becoming embarrassed, so he decided to send a truckload of golf balls.
I saw a picture of a car virtually underwater with just the top of it on, and it had Obama in his golf outfit doing a putt off of the roof. Did you see that, Steve?
No.
That was good.
Hilarious.
Why do you think, Steve, it is that these people who are no Trumpers and are encouraging people to stay home and not vote, don't they also realize that the House and Senate will then fall and everything will be Democratic and we won't have a prayer?
You'd think they'd make the connection, wouldn't you? I don't really understand. But again, I think they would rather burn the house down and rebuild things according to their perfect standard. And, of course, if they try to build a party or whatever according to their perfect standard, it's not going to have very many people inside in the fenced area. It'll be just these holier-than-thou people that condemn everybody. And these same people don't ever condemn the left. Always condemn other people, other good conservative Republicans. That's what they spend their time and their energy. And again, they're a small minority, but in my view, they're disgusting and despicable people.
But what they don't understand is there will be no comeback if the court swings the way Hillary will take the court. There will be no Republican Party to even combat that.
Well, let's face it, Hillary Clinton will appoint people in their 40s and 50s, not older people in their 60s and 70s. They will be younger people who will be there for 40 and 50 years.
Yeah, good point, both of you. And the idea that Hillary is going to be anything more than even more of a profiteering version of Obama. They both look to Saul Alinsky as their titular head. Actually, I saw a video the other day where Hillary was introing him to a group when she was back in college. And I know that doesn't mean much to a lot of people, but Saul Alinsky had a certain philosophy that Obama has followed. They are not constrained by the Constitution. They do not like the way this country was founded, and they will do everything they can to change that. And when they change it, it is not going to be the land of opportunity that we've all grown up to know.
And the bottom line is people that think like you and I do, Tom, good thinking Americans who believe in the Constitution, who believe in biblical standards, can decide this election in favor of Donald Trump. If our folks don't stay home, and if enough folks that are the no-Trumpers kind of get their act together. So we have a great opportunity to save this country, so we need to get with it.
Well, the emails that have been talked about so long, Steve, to me there is one essence of why they have been covered up and why dumping them out down this home stretch is going to be so important. It was a pay-for-play situation with people like Huma and Mills and others that were facilitating this through the State Department, access to the Clintons. They had one the other day, $32 million by some Arab sheik and prince that had given that money to them to get access to the State Department. Haiti, as an example, you mentioned the Hillary's America, the Clinton Cash, the book that was written by Peter Schweitzer, tremendous piece, and the gutting of Haiti for millions of dollars into the Clinton Foundation and contracts being given that were never fulfilled in Haiti, a poor country to begin with, gutted further only to profit the Clintons. I mean, this is the kind of absolute outrages that I think if the American people just had a sniff of. Now, she tried to blame Colin Powell for the prototype of how she handled her emails. Colin Powell came out the other day and said absolutely not. She was doing it on her private email a year before I ever had any communication with her. And he said, I did not use classified emails. This was only my private stuff, where she was running everything through her personal bathroom server. Tell us what you think about
Tom,
that.
it's comparable. I'll give you an example. I was in Greene County last night, and Representative Chip Baltimore, who's a great conservative, who's in the banking business, used a parallel example that he is a banker. If he were to set up an operation in his basement and doing bank business out of there that people could access or something, he'd be fired and he'd be in jail. Same comparable situation, but this woman can get by with holy murder, and the thing that's so revolting is I'm convinced that Hillary Clinton has no conscience whatsoever.
Well, and the basis for the suit, some of the Benghazi families have sued the Clintons for this, and what they are alleging in part of their allegations is that the lives of these people may have been put at risk and killed because of the exposure to these to this unsecured email, and that also may have taken out a nuclear scientist 2 weeks ago. I don't know if you saw that.
Yep.
Over in Iran. That was our undercover person who was talked about on the Clinton emails. Probably and very likely put out. His life was taken. So we're not just talking about stuff that's embarrassing. We're talking about life-threatening security breaches that most people would have long ago been sent to prison for.
But the bottom line is, Tom, is all they care is about power. They don't care about all this other stuff.
Well, just quickly, I was going to add that I thought I heard someone say the other night on the news that the email server had been set up the day she was sworn in office as Secretary of State.
I don't know.
Well, did you know that Bill Clinton's speaking fees tripled? I heard Peter Schweitzer interviewed the other day, and he was saying that the day she was sworn in, his speaking fees tripled.
Yeah, I heard that too.
And so this is the angle. They have profited to the tune of many millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, actually, to this point.
All right, let's take our last break. We'll be gone for 2 minutes and then back for 8 with more of Steve Scheffler, Tom Coates, and the conversations around today's politics. It's the Gaithers in the background. Remember, they're coming Friday the 16th to the Civic Center. Enjoy.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Rockton Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens. Rock on. This is Pat McManus for Rockton Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
Northern Lights Pizza, your home of the tasty crust. Our garlic butter sauce now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza. Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30 here on webcastonelive.com and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common, everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live. From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
At the completion of the celebrate. And when the right boys flew their bird, no angelic shout for her. There's only one.
All right, it's the Gaithers coming Friday, the 16th of September, down at the Civic Center of Des Moines. Another thing I want you to put on your calendar and join us in is the Iowa Faith and Freedom Coalition 16th Annual Fall Family Banquet. And author and former presidential candidate Steve Forbes, along with former Senator Michelle Bachmann, will be two of the speakers and probably a few more. Again, it's Saturday the 24th. Check-in is at 4, dinner at 5, program at 6, and it's out at the Paul Knapp Learning Center on the fairgrounds. For more information, email events@ffciowa.com. That's events@ffciowa.com.
Now, guys, I want to introduce something that we really haven't heard in our media. It sounds like a bad murder mystery. People will accuse us of being conspiracy theorists. But let's go back for a minute to the thing that exploded the Democratic convention before it really got started, and that was the WikiLeaks exposure of some of the DNC emails that showed that the Clinton people were working in conjunction with the DNC to mess around with Bernie's chances. It caused Debbie Schultz, blabbermouth, to step out early, cause some more resignations. But the WikiLeaks source, Julian Assange, came out and did an interview we talked about a couple of weeks ago. There was a young man in his 20s, Steve, you may or may not know this story, that was murdered on the streets of D.C. at 4-something in the morning. And it was before the DNC convention, the Democrat convention. But in essence, Julian Assange was pointing a finger at him rather than the Russians, asked the source. And they say, well, is he your source? Well, it's our policy never to name our source, but this shows you what can happen. This is the kind of risk that some of the people that give us information have. And then shortly after that, they offered a $20,000 reward for the capture and conviction of the culprit. Now, on the heels of that, very mysterious coincidental death, a young man working for the DNC presumably had access and maybe resented some of the stuff that the Clintons and Debbie were doing. Now, just the other day, it was reported that Julian Assange's, he's staying apparently at the Ecuadorian embassy in London. There's somebody that tried to get in potentially to get at Julian Assange. Security was able to stop him. He ran off. But just before that, a day or two before that, Julian Assange's attorney, a guy named John Jones, was killed. Now, they initially tried to say it was a suicide, but now the inquest has ruled that the death of John Jones QC, who was Julian Assange's attorney, was not a suicide, run over by a train. Now, these deaths are starting to pile up like we used to see them pile up down in Arkansas. There were a lot of very interesting deaths that were ruled suicide. You mentioned it to me, Frank. A guy with a bullet hole in his head run over by a train and called a suicide down there.
Well, natural causes. Well, Bob or Tom, you know how this happened. The guy was out squirrel hunting with his rifle, and he was walking along, and he got startled, and he, the gun shot him in the head, and he fell on the track. Had a heart attack or something, who knows, and then he got ran over, so it was, all kosher.
Two deaths. Two people were laid on the tracks with dark covering to have the train run over them, and who was the gal that was Jennifer
Flowers?
No, who was the one that was the head of the medical? She was Clinton's.
McDougal?
No, help me out, Steve. She was a lady that was the person that was declaring these funny deaths down in Arkansas, suicides, and then she came in and she was
Jocelyn.
Jocelyn Elders.
Jocelyn Elders.
Yes. She was the one. But had you heard this? Had you heard about Julian Assange? Somebody tried to take him out, and he apparently did kill his attorney just a few days ago. Now, the media hasn't touched it, but this is a clear message that they do. The biggest threat, I think, to the Clinton campaign are these other emails that Julian Assange says he's got enough to put her in jail.
Yeah. Go ahead, Steve. I just, I don't know who's worse, the conservatives or the Democrats, because everybody's throwing bombs at each other nowadays, and nothing seems to stick.
Well, but Julian Assange and WikiLeaks are not conservatives, Mac. They have in the past actually trended left. They've released information on our security. They've compromised our security. But the left never seems to care about that. But now they're very concerned that they could release things that might be damaging to the Clinton campaign. I think WikiLeaks may be the smoking gun that comes out down the stretch. Steve, your thoughts on that?
Well, certainly if they're guilty of what we think they might be guilty of, I certainly hope it's exposed before the election. But I'm one of those people that think that Clinton are people with 9 lives, that they seem to avoid detection, whether it's through their attorneys or whatever. And I guess I'll have to believe it or I'll have to see it before I believe it that these people are going to actually get with their hand in the cookie jar, at least before the election. I hope so, but who knows?
But you hadn't seen anything. Mainstream media is ignoring the attempt on Assange and the death of his attorney, much as they ignored their likely leak being murdered on the streets of D.C. I think the American public just do not know of the level of the depths that the Clintons can go to keep their own. I do believe that Vince Foster committed suicide, but I don't believe he committed the suicide where his body was found. There was no undergrowth on his shoes. People reported they saw 2 guys carrying a roll of carpet into Fort Marcy Park, and there were carpet fibers on his clothes. They kept his stuff, kept off the park police. Then they put him in the park police. Park police had jurisdiction rather than the D.C. police. And I just did see an article today that much of the Vince Foster stuff that was there has disappeared mysteriously. The story was just out today. So,
Frank,
I would suggest that Assange is going to dribble this stuff out incrementally to keep the story going. And I would suggest if they do make a hit on Assange and they take him out, I'm assuming Assange is smart enough that he's got someone that's going to dump this stuff immediately at his death.
Well, he said that. He said that's his life insurance policy. Somebody takes me out, everything I've got's dumped out into the press. That's his life insurance policy.
All right, Steve Scheffler, thank you for being here today. I appreciate it. Steve, of course, is the Republican National Committee man for the state of Iowa and also the president of the Iowa Faith and Freedom Coalition. Their big event, starring Steve Forbes, will be Saturday, September 24th at the Knapp Learning Center on the fairgrounds of the Iowa State Fair. Get your tickets or more information at events at ffciowa.com. All right, for the whole crew, I'm J. Michael McCoy. Remember, I love this job, and I couldn't do it without you. So thanks for listening to The Truth, 99.3. Salem Radio Network News coming up, and then we're back in the 4 o'clock hour.
This was just today.